I wasn't picked up very early. They just thought I was a weird kid. The weird kid who spent all his time talking to rocks or spent all his time looking at strange things in the classroom, being distracted all the time, never fitting in. And, well, my life was computers. The only calm I had in my life back then was taking apart electronics, spending time with ZX Spectrums. It just gave me peace. Technology, for some reason, was the thing that felt real to me. I couldn't understand anything other than computers and electronics. For some reason, they were my peace. They were my first, what is called a safe space. The kind of thing that a lot of autistic people end up in. For all autistic people, it's different. But there is an ongoing thing that, like, I've met a lot of people who found their place. So my life was pretty normal to start with. I had a loving family. My mum cared a lot about me. My father died when I was 12, but I was very much closer to my mum. As we were going on, she knew something was different about me. My mum always looked after me and made sure I was okay. So I had a pretty normal life until I was 26. I went to college, I went to university. I failed at both because I spent all my time with computers. I spent all my time in the tech support, helping them fix problems. I could do all the tests, I could do all the assignments, but I couldn't document them. I couldn't take it outside of my head. I could do the coding, but to actually do anything like leaving a document for someone to understand how I was doing it, my brain just wouldn't work like that. You've seen some of my old report cards where I was basically classed as I was called bone idle and say I was acting like a 5-year-old when I was 15. Really horrible stuff. Stuff you wouldn't allow people to say these days.
Yeah, no, if a teacher said that at the schools that I've been to, they would not keep their job.
Yeah, basically, this one teacher said to me in the actual report, it went something like this. Jason is bone idle. He spends all his time looking out the window. He acts like a 5-year-old. He really needs to sort himself out. And you're saying this to a 15-year-old. This was the same teacher who one day grabbed me by the throat and up against a wall because he thought I was acting out in the class. And of course, back then in the 80s, nobody actually did anything about that kind of thing. When I was 26, I met Paula, and she understood me. She was the one person who did. Right from the start, she got me. And everybody thought we were crazy because within 3 weeks, we were planning to live together. I sold everything I had just to get the deposit on a little rental place so we could be together. And everybody was saying to us, "You're crazy. You shouldn't be doing this." But it just felt right. When you meet someone and you just connect, someone you can be yourself with, you don't have to mask. There's something when it comes to autism called masking. It's when an autistic person tries to fit in. It does terrible damage to their psyche, but they spend their life masking. They try to do what everybody else does, even though they don't understand why everybody else is different. They try to be like everybody else, to do all the things that normal people, so-called normal people, do. And she was the first person who I could try to be myself. So we had a small place. We didn't have any money. We didn't even have a bed. We lived on a little air mattress for the first 6 months, which I had to blow up every single night for us to go to bed. That was how little money we had. But we were in love and we were happy. 6 months after we met, she was my girlfriend still, and she fainted on the way to college because she was going to college after another few months of misdiagnosis because, first of all, she was 21, and when you're that young, the first thing they don't think of is cancer. She had acute lymphoblastic leukemia, Philadelphia chromosome positive, and incurable cancer. That's something you don't want to hear either. I remember the day when the doctor, our consultant, who was a brilliant man, and we always said to him we wanted the truth right from the start. We're the kind of people who like honesty. My brain doesn't work when it comes to deception and that. I just can't do it. We wanted it straight from the start. And he said, okay, either the cancer's going to kill you or the treatment's going to kill you. There's no cure. There's no way to fix this. There's no magic bullet. Now, I was in total shock. I was freaked out. I was just standing there next to her, shaking when he said this. But Paola said, okay, what now? She was ready to fight straight away. And so we did. I became her carer. And over the next 20 years, exactly 20 years, we fought it as it slowly got worse. And I still miss her terrible. She got ill in 1998 and she died in the end of 2018. That wrecked me completely. Right until the end, I was there when it happened. I was there when she passed away. I was at home. Funny thing is, we were supposed to come home that week. You see, she had had what's called a silent heart attack because of the damage being done to her body by the medication to keep the cancer away. She had a silent heart attack and we didn't know for a few days, but finally we got her in the hospital and her heart was working at 14%, just 14%. My autism and I'm supposed to be very high IQ. When they tested me, they said I've got something like a 165 to 170 IQ and a 92% problem solving ability. This allowed me to look after Paola. This allowed me to learn all about dialysis because we had decided to do what's called a peritoneal dialysis, where you stay at home and you do it with the portable dialysis machine and you have to learn how to use it. They won't sign off of it. Peritoneal dialysis is amazing. It uses the lining outside your stomach as an osmosis barrier or something like that, which means they pour a sugar-based liquid into that lining through the machine overnight and it draws out the toxins in the body. It acts like your kidneys and that. But the damage was still being done. There was no way to get away from the damage. And so she was in hospital because of this heart attack. Her heart was working at 14%. This was just before my birthday. And I remember the morning I went in there at 6 a.m. because she was in what's called the coronary care ward and she was in one of the main beds next to the hub, the emergency beds. I could go in any time, but at 6 a.m. in the morning, I'd go in and because she was still on dialysis, even though she was in there. So I'd do all the things like change the liquids and that. And then I'd have to contact the porters and tell them what liquids were used during the night so they could send some more up. I'd contact the renal department to say, okay, these are her numbers for the night. And then they'd decide what the next liquid that she would be having for the next night. And so on, we had to balance it all the time. Look after your kidneys. They do an amazing job. They really do. And you really do miss them when they're gone. And so that morning, I came in, did all that, made sure she had something to eat and that. Head doctor came round and said, by the weekend, we're going to try to get her home. We've stabilised the heart. It's still very weak, but with medication, because unfortunately, she couldn't have any of the normal procedures. The first thing you usually would have with a heart attack is a CT scan. But if you haven't got any kidneys to get rid of the dye, that put the dye in you, that dye will kill you. So they had to do what's called the old school stuff to check the heart and make sure it was okay and to check what damage was done. So once again, you're up against this barrier of everything's more complicated because she's got so many other things going wrong. I went home that day after our talk. The last thing I did for her was set up Minecraft on her phone because she was bored and wanted to play something. It broke my heart because that morning she was saying she was bored and I said, I'll bring the laptop in. You can play on the laptop. And she just said to me, I couldn't even hold the laptop. or use a laptop. Now I'm too weak. And I think that got to me. So instead, Minecraft on her phone. So she was always spending time painting or trying to make someone happy. She got to know all the nurses. She knew everything about everybody in the ward. I mean, whenever I go in, she said, "Oh, this person, the reason they got involved with medicine and that is because they wanted to do this and that." She was so involved with everyone. So I went home and I was going to buy her a ring because the ring she was wearing had a little hook on it, and it was called, she was catching it on things. So I'm sitting there in front of my computer. I've told the forum that I'm on, told them that Paola's be coming home at the weekend, and I checked for the ring and I couldn't remember her ring size. So I sent her a message and she didn't reply. I thought, hey, she's playing Minecraft. A minute later, I get a call from the hospital saying, you need to get here now. And so my next door neighbour, Trevor, who we'll talk about later, sort of broke quite a few speed records, getting me back to the hospital. It was only 5 minutes away. And I went into the room because they said I could have sat outside while they were working on Paola, but no, I had to be there for her. So I was in there when these 12 people were trying to bring her back. It's not like it is on the movies when you have a cardiac arrest. The heart had stopped. You have a few minutes. You can help by recirculating oxygen and all that. You can do all the things that you normally do. But every 2 minutes, after all the frantic things of trying to start someone's heart, they stop, they check whether or not the heart has started, and then it's rapid fire, more medication and everything. And I'm just standing there watching. And they kept trying. But I knew all about heart disease. I knew all about the risks and the damage that gets done. And so I was the one who said to them, you can stop. She's not coming back. Because I wanted that on me. I didn't want the doctor to have to say to me, we can't bring her back. I didn't want that on him. They have to deal with too much. I wanted it on me. So I let Paola go. And that's when my world really fell apart. Because she was my anchor. She wasn't just my love. She was everything to do with my autism and everything. She kept me stable, kept me going. We were there for each other. We spent 18 years just living in a very small bungalow and spending all our time in there because she couldn't walk. 7 days after she died, I was diagnosed with bowel cancer. She died just after my birthday in November. They got me into hospital just before Christmas and they removed 40% of my bowels. Unfortunately, I developed a really bad case of PTSD because the medication they gave me for the bowel surgery, they were going to do what's called keyhole surgery, where they just make little holes in your body and they do it all through those little holes. But there was complications, and instead of it being a half an hour operation, it turned into a 6.5 hour operation, and they had to cut me all the way down from my upper chest all the way down to my navel. I've got a 29 centimeter scar.
Whoa, that must be gnarly.
Yeah.
Tell people you got attacked by a shark.
And the medication they gave me after it caused some bad side effects. It was a pain medication because they basically cut my entire body open. And, well, it caused me to hallucinate. And you've got to remember, I'm in the same hospital that my wife died less than 5 weeks before. And so, first of all, I imagined I could see my wife next to me on the bed and them trying to bring her back to life. And we think it was triggered by all the beeping of the machines and the medical sounds.
Yeah.
Then I was my wife and they were trying to bring me back to life. And I went through that. And from that moment on, for 3 years, every time I lay down on any kind of normal bed, I would trigger my PTSD, which would mean I would relive my wife's death. From the moment I entered that ward to the moment I said, "You can stop now, she isn't coming back." I was not a very good patient. I tried to leave the hospital like 4 times while I was still connected up to machines and that, because I was terrified. Every time I closed my eyes, I was going through my wife's death again. And after I did get home, they classed me as what's called severely disabled. There's no way I was ever going to go back to work, because with everything else, it's like the perfect storm. My head consultant said to me when he first read through, because I was given over to a specialist, and he said, after he read through my notes, I was sitting in his office and he went through all my notes while I was there. And at first I was really annoyed, because it's that thing that doctors do where you go and see them and you just have to sit there, where why couldn't they have read your notes before you got there?
Yeah.
Or anything like that. Yeah. But no, he read through it and he just looked at me and said, "How the hell are you still alive, Jason?" He looked at me right in the eye and he said, "I've got people on my books who I try to help who have got half of what you're going through, and we haven't been able to save them. How are you still alive?" And this was at the point where 5 other consultants had tried to keep me going. They had tried to get me back into the world, tried to do all the normal things, and none of it was working. I was getting worse. I had a plan for suicide. I had a plan to end my life. This wasn't a call for help. This was I'm seeing my wife's death 4 or 5 times a day. There's only so much of that you can cope with because of my ADHD and everything else. When you start thinking a certain thing, like your wife's death or the pain and suffering she went through, you can't just turn away, because your brain hyper-focuses on it, which makes it worse.
Hyper-focused intrusive thoughts are so
Yeah,
powerful.
yeah. And so it just built up and built up. So he finally said to me, "What's keeping you alive?" What was actually keeping me alive was computers. After she died, we were both gamers. We had played games all our life. We both had our own game system. We explored VR together, even, because you got to think that's an amazing thing for someone who's trapped in the house. We looked into it and he said, "Okay, we're going to stop everything else. We're going to stop the medication because it's not doing you any good. We're going to stop all this therapy and you trying to get you back into the world. And we're going to start using computers as your treatment." And that's the way it started. I started to actually stream, because I found I could, ever since my wife died, I can't play a computer game on my own. I literally can't turn on my computer and play any game, no matter whether Fallout 4, Mass Effect, it doesn't matter. I cannot turn on a computer and play a game because it triggers really bad thoughts and bad situations. And these bad things, what I mean by bad things, if bad things happen, by the end of the week, I would be in a secure unit being medicated, because basically it triggers things to do with my wife. And, no matter how good you are, you think, I could have done better. And people say to me, I have 98% problem solving ability, but I couldn't save my wife. Now everybody says to me, yeah, but the smartest people in cancer and that couldn't fix this cancer. How are you supposed to? But that didn't matter to my brain. What's the point of being able to be a problem solver if you can't fix the one thing in your life that matters? And so it can go very badly for me. I found that if I streamed, if I connected a camera up in my room, I could game. And so I started doing my channel, the Queber channel, and that. And I started to be able to game again. I started to be able to have a life online, because as long as the camera was running, either recording or streaming, even if no one was watching, it didn't matter whether anybody was watching me. That didn't matter. I knew that at some point in time in the future, someone might come across one of my videos and watch it. So I was connected to the world. And that really helped. So much so that 5 of my consultants that were looking after me, because of course you have a different consultant for ADHD, a different consultant for PTSD, a different consultant for bipolar, because there's not many people who have to deal with it all at the same time. So they all signed off, and I've just got one person looking after me now who sees me once a year. But then came VR, and I'd always been interested in VR, but virtual reality is amazing. It truly is. Valve heard about my story, and they actually said one day, they contacted me via Reddit. I didn't ask them, they contacted me. And they said to me, hey, we've read your story. Would you like a Valve Index? And I'm like, is this a scam? Someone contacts you, private messages in Reddit. Of course, you're going to think when they offer you something, it's got to be a scam.
Yeah.
Says, no. Here's the email for Valve Software. Contact me through this. We'd like to talk to you. So it says, we'd like you to have a Valve Index with no strings attached. You don't even have to tell anybody.
Wow.
This wasn't a marketing thing or anything. They just said, this is for you. We think we've read your story about how computers help you and everything, and how much you've enjoyed Steam and using that. I talked about how me and Paula used to play Left 4 Dead 2 together and things like that.
Aww.
Because we couldn't leave the house. And they were like, yeah. So that started my relationship with Valve. And that was like 2 years ago, over 2 years ago. It didn't stop there because how much I use VR and I live in VR. As I say, technology allows me to survive, but virtual reality allows me to live. In virtual reality, I can do things that I can't in real life. I've been talking to I do little bits of beta testing for them. I provide long-term feedback on the controllers and everything like that. And they said, hey, we know someone at Tundra and gave me the name of someone that says, I think you might want to help. So I contacted the person at Tundra.
Quick thing. Tundra, for those of you who don't know, their name is pretty well known in the enthusiast VR space, but most people wouldn't know. They make so I have what are called Vive trackers, which is how I can move my feet. He also has them. But there's another company other than Vive that is starting to make trackers that everybody kind of agrees is a lot better in a lot of ways. They're called Tundra.
Yeah.
So someone at Tundra hit you up then?
Yeah, and then they sent me out a kit of 3 trackers, and as also I'm writing up a big review and feedback for them because I live in VR, because I use it different than a lot of people.
Right.
And so it's like the immersion levels, as I always tell you, when you've got full body tracking, the world here, the VR world, and it's something amazing. It looks really weird, but lots of people do it.
Yeah. Tell me the story of when you first tried VR and then the story of when you first tried full body.
Oh, God. First tried VR. That was a local place called Overclockers. It's well known in the UK. It's a computer store. And we had saved up some money because we knew the Vive was coming out. We knew the CV1 was coming out and that. And we were both interested in it because we saw the potential. I mean, we're back from the age of Lawnmower Man, the movie and that and all that. And even though it looks horrible really these days, the graphics of it, it was like, oh my God, we could be in VR. We could do these things. And so I went there on a Saturday morning. I remember walking into this room that they had set up, and it was this big green screen style room that they had set up in there with Vive. And I remember them showing me, he says, have you tried VR before? And I said, no, I haven't. I've read up about it. It says, okay, we'll start with something simple. And they showed me the blue. And I don't know if you've seen that. The blue is the one where you see that wonderful, beautiful whale. And it swims past you on a wreck.
Oh, that sounds beautiful.
And the scale of it, because the eye is almost as big as you as it goes past, and you get to see, and it's so stunning. It takes your breath away. And then Pirate Trainer was just my second experience. And that blew my mind because I used to love flat screen, what I call flat screen, normal gaming.
That's what we call the normie games once you're into VR. Yeah. Flat screen, for the not so cool kids.
And I used to spend a lot of time first-person shooters, Half-Life, all the way back to the original Doom, shareware.
Oh, hell yeah.
Them all. Yeah. And so all of a sudden, I'm standing there, and the thing that made me go, oh my God, was I had a gun in each hand, and I could point them in different directions. Not only that, I could look in one direction, I could fire behind me, I could fire in front of me, I could look over there.
You feel like such a badass the first time.
Yes, because it made me it's spoilt. first-person shooters for me in flat screen completely, because I realized that when you're flat screen, you're looking your mouse where your mouse goes. You're stuck seeing wherever your mouse looks, and all of a sudden I was free. I could crouch and avoid a laser blast. I could hide behind an object. I could do these things, and it was like, oh my God. It was only 20 minutes in there. I walked out of there. I rang Pal and says, I've got to buy this. I've got to buy this now. We've got to have this. So we did, and that was the very first time. The really stunning part was for Paola. I don't know if if you use VR, there's an application, a free application that every single one of you should try. And it's called Google Earth VR.
Oh, yeah. I heard about this.
It's the most stunning thing. It's a simple application. It's free. It's available on Steam. And basically, you can go anywhere in the world where the Street View car has been for Google. And then you can walk down the streets and you can look around places.
Wow.
You can visit places you've never been. And so imagine that for someone who's disabled, who doesn't leave the house like me and Paola. Imagine being able to go anywhere in the world, find a little village that the Google Earth has gone down all the side streets, and you just drop yourself down there. You look around the streets with the frozen images of the pictures and that, and then you just I'll go down that street and walk down there and see where it goes. And things. It's amazing.
That sounds beautiful. I mean, even for people that do go outside or travel a lot, that's like getting a free demo of wherever you're about to go.
Yeah, I told my sister about it and said, because they were organising a trip, I said, go look at the place you're going to go beforehand. The first time I used full body tracking was, I went a bit crazy because I got the full body tracking and I put them on. Had a few glitches, as you know, Aziel. You can have little glitches when you're trying to set up all this full body tracking, and your leg might wander off in the distance and things like that. It might look like the old Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy when they're on the Infinite Drive ship. But once you get on there, you look at a mirror and you think, oh wow. And there was music, and I started freaking dancing. I'm 51 years old, and I just started dancing in the room because I could see myself there, and I was like, oh my God, I can move my legs, I can move my arms and everything. It was just the connection with my body. It took it to another level, and it helped so much. And another thing that really helped, that was the first time I slept in VR. Oh my God. Remember, for 3 years, I couldn't sleep on a normal bed. I could sleep on a little futon because I could convince my body and mind that it wasn't a bed, and I could sleep in a little air mattress because I could convince myself that it wasn't bed. Therefore, it wouldn't trigger the bad stuff.
Right.
But it was getting to the point. I mean, these air mattresses are not meant to last. I was having to replace them every 2-3 months because they'd burst and they'd break, and they're not meant to be used for long term. And didn't have hardly any money. So I had heard someone told me, I can't remember who, but someone said that when they got an insomnia, because their job used to work on a cycle, they used to do evening shifts, night shifts, and day shifts in a cycle of I think it's 12 days on each.
That sounds like torture.
Yeah, it used to mess them up. So, but whenever they were going to a next cycle, they slept in VR. And it reset their for some reason, sleeping in VR really does reset your brain.
Yeah.
So I tried that. I tried sleeping. I found a wonderful world. For anybody that doesn't know, there's wonderful worlds out there where you can lower the lighting, where you can have, if you want, you can go asleep on a moon with a galaxy of stars, or you can have the rain going on outside the window. Some beautiful places have set up. And when you lie down there and you fall asleep on it, and I have to say that the Quest with the original strap is far better for it than anything else.
Yeah.
The Quest with the original strap, because it's just the material, it's perfect for lying down, especially if you sleep on your side. It's just like as long as you've got a good facial interface like the VR covers. After doing that a few times, I was able to, I now sleep on a normal bed.
Wow. That's a hell of a change.
Yeah. After 3 years doing that. And whenever I feel as if things are going a bit iffy and it might be coming back a little bit, I just sleep in VR again. And it just helps so much.
Wait, so not only does sleeping in VR fix it, but it fixes it for a couple days, like enough that you can...
It fixes it actually for months at a time.
Wow, that's amazing. Congratulations on that.
Yeah, and I've talked to a lot of people who have done the same thing, who have been through anxiety and stress and that, and their sleeping pattern has been totally destroyed. And then they've slept for a few days in VR and it's helped to reset it far better than pain or any medication or sleeping pills or anything like that. And it's just wonderful.
You know what the coolest part is for me? I've never actually fallen asleep and had a full sleep cycle in VR, but I have drifted off to the point where I was dreaming in VR. And the best part isn't even the falling asleep, it's waking up and being convinced for those few seconds that you are in a completely different universe.
Yes, yes. That you're in this amazing new world. You could be you're in this new world and it's real. It's wonderful to feel that way.
It's just these few seconds of a total high of escapism. It's beautiful.
When it comes to full body tracking, I am all about trying to be as involved in as possible. And there's another company that helped me out, and that's VHaptic. VHaptic make the vests and that, the vibration vests and that. And so they sent me, they were wonderful. They were awesome. They actually apologized to me. They have a full suit. They do leg things. They do arm bands, stuff that goes on your face and that. But they said, I apologize. The letter said something like, apologies. We can only send you this actual top vest because of the component shortage at the moment. We don't have enough to make. I was like, you're sending me this. You're allowing me to use it. Before they made it so unfriendly towards modding and that in VRChat. One of the things I used to do now and then was there was a mod out there that allowed you to connect the VHactive system and basically you could hug people.
Yeah. Oh, that sounds so lovely.
Because that's what I said to someone. Mentioned to someone on Reddit one day, I'd love to hug someone in VR. And that's how the VHactive people and go in touch with them. And it was like, yeah, why don't you try this? And it does work. But if you're thinking, if you've never experienced the VHaptic vest, let me explain it this way. You can always use it in other games. And one of them is Skyrim VR.
Ooh.
Now, these little motors can run to a script, or they have almost like an adaptive system. They don't just turn on and off. They've got variable pulses and that. So, for example, I was playing Skyrim VR. It was nighttime. I walked out to my custom house, which I had built there, because I used to walk from Whiterun to Riften in Skyrim VR as part of my exercise during the day. I would use something called natural locomotion. So you walked on the spot and used your hands in like a jogging motion to walk around in VR. So it was good exercise.
Yeah, Whiterun to Riften certainly is good exercise. Wow.
Yeah. So I'm walking along. I've just come outside my house and started on my trek. And all of a sudden, I feel this little vibration. Just one single tiny vibration on my neck. And then another one in a different place. And another one in a different place. And then I realized it's raining. Because you know when you leave your house and you've got a big coat on and you feel the pitter-patter of rain on your thingy and you feel that is the exact... And I talked to the guy who did it. And he spent months and months creating this algorithm and creating this thingy so it would feel just like rain. And it did. And I just stood there for half an hour just looking up at the sky like an idiot as this rain came down on my body. And it was so immersive and connecting to the world that I was just giggling. It was just a joyful event. And then this same system can we do things like, for example, if you have a potion or eat something in Skyrim VR, you feel it go down your body into your stomach. As the vibrations of the motors follow it as you swallow it. It's kind of weird.
Huh. Yeah, that would spook me.
Yeah, it's the same with, in Skyrim when you absorb a dragon soul and it's got that graphics where it shows the energy swirling around you. Well, the vibration of the motor follows around your body with it.
That is so cool. Now I want to try this.
There's something like 2,000 different signature things, everything from fire to ice to, and the scariest thing, the really scary thing, because sometimes the stupid thing of walking from Riften to Whiterun at night. And I'm walking along. It's beautiful, looking at the sky, because I've got the upgraded skies and that. So you've got all the Northern Lights style things, Aurora Borealis, and all. It's gorgeous. You're walking along, and I yelped. I actually yelped because a freaking assassin came up behind me, and I felt almost like a needle-like thing in the back of my body, because an assassin had just stabbed me in the back. And the whole point with the B haptic vest is it can activate just one little motor. So it actually felt like someone was stabbing me in the back, and it freaked me the hell out. I also got bitten by a freaking wolf on my back as well. That's not fun.
Ugh.
They come out of the dark and bite you on the back, and you feel this bite as 4 or 5 of the vibrational things just go off, and it's like, ah!
Oh, God.
But it's the immersion.
Yeah.
That's the wonderful thing, is that VR is now part of my proper medical records. VRChat, Skyrim, Beat Saber, it's all part in my actual medical records as being my treatment instead of being on medication. I was doing some talks in VR in something called Midnight Munchies, which is an open mic place that Friday night and Saturday night, Eastern Standard Time. It's a wonderful community because it's not about egos, it's not about sponsorship, and it's just about friendships and comfort. And anybody can get on stage, whether you sing, whether you dance, whether you tell a story. My autism makes me what's called non-functioning in real life. What does this mean? If I left my house and I met you on the street, then there's a 99% chance that I will just freeze up and I won't be able to move, won't be able to talk to you, won't be able to do anything until you move away from me. So for some reason in VR, I can do it. I can stand in front of 50 or 60 people and tell them about my life and inspire them and things like that. And it's wonderful. Well, we had some griefers attacking Midnight Munchies. They would come in and try to crash it, things like that. And for some reason, they latched onto me. And so what happened was this. They somehow found out where I lived in real life. And I was doing a stream on Sunday afternoon. I was just doing my normal stream. Nobody was really watching me. I was just playing a game. I think it was Bloons. I was playing Bloons Tower Defense. Just chatting and doing nothing. And then about 4 or 5 people came onto my channel. And they started to threaten me. They started to talk about my wife and say, I bet you poisoned your wife. Wonderful things like that. That was the start. They then broadcast my full address in real life on the stream. Now you got to understand this almost broke me straight away, because in those situations you're supposed to deny and say and laugh it off and say, no, that doesn't affect me. That's not real. That's not my real address. But when you're somebody who can't actually understand the concept of lying or deception, I can't even buy someone a secret or a birthday present. If I bought someone a present, I have to give it to them instantly. I just don't have the ability to hide things. They started saying things about my address, and obviously they were on Google Earth because they were looking at my location, and they had been looking through my videos, and they were speaking about one of our friends is in your backyard messing with your solar panel. One of our friends has got into your back window and is waiting for you upstairs. All wonderful things like this. And I'm on my own dealing with this. And people would say, I could have just logged off, but I couldn't. You've got to remember, this stream is my life. Being on it, being connected is what kept me stable. If I had logged off, I would have been in a ball on the floor. The only thing that kept me going that night was staying on that stream. But something wonderful happened about half an hour into it. I don't know how they found out, but people at Midnight Munchies and other people who knew me realized this was going on. I don't know how, because I didn't contact anyone. I was frozen to the spot, just continuously sitting there trying to continue to do my stream and play my game and not completely lose everything. And so people started pouring in from all the locations. The word went out everywhere, and they all started coming in and defending me and looking after me. Someone even donated some money for me to get some security cameras for my backyard and that. And they all convinced me to call the police. I had a case number and the police came the next day. They couldn't come out that night because in my locale, there isn't that many police in the area, and they had some big issues happening. And so it was the next day when they came to see me. It was amazing because that's how this place came about. They wanted to do something special for me. They built this actual little place in Quebber's World. They built this for me. The people at Manifestos did. And not only that, they'd heard that I wanted a Steam Deck, the Valve one, the wonderful portable gaming system, and there's no way I could afford it. I'm on disability benefits. It's the only money that comes into the house. I had put like a lot of people, I had put down the money for it to get one. And they had just messaged me and said, yours is in stock and I could order it. And it was like, I don't even have like £10 in the bank. There's no way I can afford this. I thought it was so ironic. And what I didn't know, that Manifesto and all the people at the club were doing a donation drive for me. They'd kept it all secret for me. And then the next day they basically surprised me with enough and said, I tried to give the money back. I all kept saying to them that there's got to be someone else there who deserves it more than me. And they're like, no, you've got to use this on you. You've got to. And so I managed to order myself a Steam Deck. And because of what they did, it was a really bad event, having these people know my address. But first of all, they can only do that once. They can only threaten you with your address once. They can't do it again. It's almost like doing something really silly. They do it too early, too quick. They didn't torture me enough. They just did it. And from that moment on, my friends just made sure I was okay, and things got better from that point on. In fact, things got a lot better. It was like, I was so amazed how many people I had inspired and how many people loved my story and wanted to be my friends and look after me. And it was very humbling to see all that. And it just made everything, something really bad made actually something really good. And I remember telling you all about this going on and that at the time. It was, I couldn't give up what I was doing because it was my life. It kept me going. And you'd think the universe would give me a break. A couple of months ago, my life changed a lot, and not for the best. My mum is in end-stage dementia. She's in a home. But when she was diagnosed, I decided that me and Paula would come live next door to her in Trevor's house, and she would move back into her house, which was next door. They lived next to each other, her and her boyfriend did. And so we could help look after her. So I could look after Paula and look after my mum. And it worked really well. We made it so that my mum could spend as much time as possible at home before she had to go in a home. So everything seemed well. The idea and the plan was that when my mum passed away, we would just swap the house deeds, because Trevor wanted to live in my mum's house because he had the memories of my mum, and I was going to live in the house that I had been with Paula until she died. That was just what we were going to do. A couple of months ago, Trevor died, and me and Trevor were power of attorney for my mum. We got to look after her finances. I didn't look after the finances because I was disabled and staying in the house all the time, and Trevor had the car. I had complete and total trust in him, and nothing he had ever done had made me ever doubt him in any shape or form. He was the person who took me to every hospital appointment. He was the person who looked after Paula and took us both to our hospital appointments. and did all these things for us and that. And we found out the day that he died, he had emptied all my mum's bank accounts and he had trashed her house completely. The mess he had made, he was supposed to look after my mum. He was supposed to he could only take money out of the bank to pay for her toiletries and that. That was the only reason he was supposed to take money out of the bank. Or if it was my birthday, to give me a little bit of my money from my mum, because that's what she would have done if she had been alive. It's a position of trust. He smoked inside the house that I'm in now. He trashed the house. He told everybody a different story. He didn't tell his children that I was living in his house. So as soon as he died, I had to move out because they wanted to sell it. So I had to move back into my mum's house. I had to, within a week had to move out of my safe space, out of the place I thought I was going to live until I died, into my next door, and literally every room was trashed. The carpets, he had smoked in every room, smoked in every place. He had put out his cigarettes on the sofa. He had poured ash onto the floor. When he would go to bed and smoke in the bed upstairs, he would just tip the ashtray on the floor. There was huge drips of the ceiling and everything covered in tea and coffee that he just threw on everything. We think he had a mental breakdown over the last 3 or 4 years and just basically didn't live in the real world. I never knew because I never entered that house. That was where he lived. I didn't want to intrude on him. We only talked across the actual barrier between the two houses, and I never saw it happening. And at the same time, he was taking money out of my mum's account. After all said and done, we realised, and it took months and months to find out, because he burnt all the statements. He wasn't even paying for my mum's toiletries. I had to pay a year's worth of that off. But basically, £150,000 he wasted. He wasted on holidays. He wasted on new tyres for his car. He wasted on everything. He paid all of his bills using my mum's money. And he hadn't just done it in little bits and pieces. Basically, he had used one of my mum's money. My mum wasn't rich, but all a year she'd work 2 or 3 jobs to put together what's called annuities and that would pay slowly over time. And so while she was in the home, and that while she wasn't using her money, it slowly built up. Like one account just had £100 a week that would go in. And that had come up to about £3,000. He used up all the £3,000, and then every single week when another £100 went in, he'd take that out as well. And he did that for all my mum's accounts. And so we found out in the end that he had basically used it all up. And there's no way of getting any of it back because when he died, he had nothing. He had just basically wasted it all over the years. There wasn't even enough money in my mum's account to pay for a funeral. If my mum dies now, we don't know because she's in end-stage dementia. She could pass any time. There's only just enough money to pay for a funeral. It's even worse than that, though. The worst part of it was this. He always said to me, if I ever need any help, just ask him. And he always said he had money. He did. He was just using my mum's money. But he always said that I've got money, and then when your mum dies, just pay me back whatever you think. I mean, I had no reason to doubt this. Before Paola died, we knew Paola was going to die, really. I mean, we knew it was a terminal illness, but within the last 2 years of her life, we knew that it was coming to the end. I took out a large amount of loans so I could make sure her last year and a half of life was the best I could do. Being able to go on a boat on the canals, being able to go to wildlife places, all these kind of things. I took her to, and she loved air rifles and things like that. And we had a local shooting range, and we bought her a air rifle with a really fine, gentle trigger so she could fire it. She used to paint her own targets to shoot at, and that she loved it. All things like that. I ended up running up about £13,000 worth of debt. Now, none of these were secured on anything. They were just unsecured loans and credit cards and that. And the plan was that when my mum passed, I would just pay it all off. So until then, because I could have gone bankrupt, I could have gone insolvency, I could have done all these things back then in 2018, but I didn't feel right doing that because that money had been used to make my wife's last year and a half better. So I felt I had to pay it back. So I slowly over time, I was basically just paying the interest off. I wasn't reducing it in any way, shape, or form. I was just paying the interest off to keep it going. And when Trevor did this, I realized that I had a set of debts that, being as I'm only on disability in that, I had no way of fixing. That this debt was going to be around a noose around my neck for the rest of my life. Thankfully, now I've got a plan in place that will allow me to sort it all. It's not as bad as it could be.
Yeah.
But it's very hard to understand. And I can't ask him why he did it. I think it was that he just broke. I think the death of my wife, because he thought of her as a daughter, and my mum's dementia just pushed him over to the edge, and he couldn't focus and live in the real world, and he just wanted to just live a different life. And so I had to take over the house and clean it up and make it all livable. But I'm better now here. It's only a couple months later, but I am in better position here now because this is my mum's house. I can look after it now. I've cleaned the carpets as much. I've vaxed the carpet with a Vax shampoo and everything like 8 times. The carpets still look bad, but at least the house doesn't smell of smoke. And I'm slowly cleaning up here and there and making sure, and it's livable. I can't do too much work because it's still my mum's house. And until she passes away, I'm not supposed to change anything in here. But a lot of the stuff I had to do because that was general maintenance.
Right.
I feel like this is the place I should be. I've got a much bigger room for VR, and I have my friends, I have my community around me. I have this place. That's a wonderful thing about VR and VRChat. It doesn't matter how bad your walls are in your room. It doesn't matter that when I look at the walls in this room that I'm in, there's coffee stains all over it where he threw and smashed cups against the wall. It doesn't matter because I've got this world. I can spend time with my friends. I can socialize in this world. I can function in VR. When I'm not in VR, to do stuff around the house, I usually get out my noise cancelling headphones, which we've talked about those before, how they help so much, and listen to an audiobook while I'm cleaning and that. Because when I take my headset off, I can be triggered in a bad way. And you have to have coping strategies and lists, and you work out things to cope everything. Because I live alone. I have to be independent. I have to be able to do all these things. I have to be able to make a meal and do the laundry and all that. I can't be in VR all the time. I want to be in VR all the time. I would love to be in VR all the time, but I can't be in VR all the time. So you have to do all these bits. And you have challenges that you face all the time. A new thing I can do, I've figured out. Another thing. For the last 3 years, I haven't been able to listen to music in real life because my wife picked out all our playlists and did all that kind of thing. So it triggered me too easily. So I couldn't do it. But now I can. I can listen to music in VR. I figured out for some reason, when I'm in VR, I can tell my Echo Dot to play music or something like that. And I can actually listen to music again in VR, which is amazing. I can't do it in real life, but in here I can.
That's lovely. This place really does fix almost everything, doesn't it?
It has really helped so much. I was at the point, as they said to me, my GP admitted to me that in 2019, he was waiting for the call from the police. He said, I was just waiting for the call from the police to say they had found your body. Because my options were to end it all or be in a secure unit in a medicated state because the world doesn't fit me. But even the world, there's chance now because technology is going on. It's like I'd love to get something like the Quest Pro because it has full color pass through. And I realized I tried it once with the normal Quest. I can leave my house with a Quest on. I might look like a complete idiot, but my anxiety doesn't kick in. Because the way I go to, when I have to get, let's explain how my coping strategies work sometimes. If I've got to leave the house for a doctor's appointment or to the hospital, I have to create a game world. Basically, I will spend the night before creating a game world in my head that will encompass everything that's going to happen to me when I leave the house. Every person I see is going to be an NPC. And if every person I talk to is scripted, and I have scripted responses to everything that can go on, so I can function. My brain can't deal with an event that I don't expect. So I have to have these plans set up. And so going to my doctor's is a quest. But I figured out that what if I could have a headset on and leave my house? And therefore you could use this headset or hood to make it easier to create the game world. And first I tried it with my nurse. She came out to see me. And whereas usually it's very hard for me to speak to the nurse when she's there in real life, if I want something, I've got to budget really, really well for a very long time. That kind of thing for people like me, the way it helps with anxiety and all these kind of issues, virtual reality is like something amazing. Bringing in XR or augmented reality where you're actually in your real room, your real house, that's the evolution of the future. My idea was this, that it doesn't matter whether your wall needs painting, you can actually put a virtual painting on that wall in real life, an augmented reality painting to cover that wall. So you don't have to see the mess that's on the wall. You can actually, you may live in the cheapest little hovel in the world, but in augmented reality, it could be a castle. You could be
creates
living
a layer of polish and safety, especially safety for you, that you just put on.
It's just that, unfortunately, places like, Meta doesn't. It's sad because people don't know, but Valve has something called triage, hardware triage. This is like a separate job that anybody who's working at Valve can take on this little job. And it's basically, they look for people for worthy causes that might need help, like me. And then they'll contact them. Amazing. That's amazing. Meta doesn't do that.
Dude, if they hit you up, if someone working there or someone who knows someone who's working there sees this video, you have the perfect ad for your product sitting right here ready to go. This guy, that's a story anyone would want to hear.
It's a no-brainer to see how all of this can help people. I mean, Mark Zuckerberg was always saying about how the metaverse and how he wants to create all this. There's so many people dealing with this. I meet people every day in VR who have anxiety, who the idea that you can convince your brain and take your brain into a different direction, away from the bad stuff, away from the pain, away from the suffering, and you can create a world, a safe, like you said, a bubble of safety, of your own making. That's the future. It's amazing what it can do for you. And this place they created for me, they didn't let me know about this as well. Felix, who created this with the other people, he was working on this. And he said to me, I didn't know that they were doing this for me. And he said, I'm working on a place for someone. What do you prefer? This, I need some ideas to for this. I'm trying to get some inspiration for you. So he showed me different images and said, oh yeah, I like that one and that. I think try that. I says, thanks for the inspiration.
So he didn't tell you at all that it was yours.
And what happened was the night that they were going to reveal it to me, they actually got me up on stage and then they took me here and showed it me. It was like, I was in tears. We should show everybody this place. We should show this place.
Show me around.
So we come in through here, and this doorway here just leads to showing a little plaque of the people that put it together. I, Felix, and Manifesto, and all the people that were involved with doing it for me. In here is like the living room. got pictures of my dogs and artwork. Paola's artwork is on the wall and that, and pictures of me. The clock shows your own time, so you always know what's going to. This is where we're going to have the event tonight as well. And I've got this here, which is a little set of music and that for me. If we go in here, we got a lovely kitchen, and this is Bertie and Beryl, my dogs. Their bowls are there.
Aww.
Which is so nice and it's beautiful.
Yeah, this is really beautiful. I've seen a lot of worlds in my time, and this is one of the best made that I've seen.
And they just did this for me because they saw what I was going through. It was like crazy.
Yeah.
And this is my office. This is my office in here. This is the office. And
ooh. Oh, are these like your favorite movies? Like,
well, TV shows. We've got Space 1999, Blake 7, Airwolf, and of course, then we've got the film.
Yeah.
The Schwarzenegger.
That's cool. And then didn't you tell me you do like little vlogs in here sometimes?
Yeah, I've started doing it. I've done a couple test ones. I'm going to sit there and have the camera out here and do an actual virtual vlog in here, so I can actually talk with it in here.
That's so cool.
It's a beautiful little place. And then, of course, we've got upstairs. Now that we're having something done behind that door, but we haven't done yet. This is where, if I want to sleep in VR, I now sleep in my own place. So it's nice and mellow, and the lighting is nice and low, and it's all very calm for me to lie down and there. But this is a special place. This is a little gallery.
Wow.
These are Paola's pictures. Now, what happened was Paola's hands became damaged quite early on, so she couldn't do full-size pictures anymore, A4, that size. So she started to do little postcard-sized pictures. She did over 300 of them.
Oh my gosh.
And every day she would draw something or create something or be inspired to paint. She'd only paint for 15 minutes at a time, because if she did any more, her hands would cramp up and she wouldn't be able to do anything for a couple of days.
Yeah.
So,
do you mind if I walk through and take a look at all?
No, go for it.
Wow.
If I wanted to have a place where this, and anybody who I wanted to show it to, I could open it up and they could see.
Oh, that one's so cute. She had such a good understanding of composition. Like, the parts that are the most interesting to focus on catch your eye so well. I'm definitely no art critic by trade, but I can tell when something looks good, and these absolutely do. Oh, that's so cute.
And if you cross this barrier here, the next set will load. We had to do it like this so it wouldn't lag people's out.
Gotcha.
Right. So this one, she was practicing. A lot of these are practice pieces. She was trying. These were all drawn on silk paper with Japanese brushes and that.
Wow. And these are all scanned by you, I take it, and then.
Yeah, I scanned them all in. She always used to send pictures off to people. She always used to want other people to see them. She loved that, and she would have loved that people got to see what she did.
Yeah. Wow. Is that one drawn on a napkin?
Yeah.
That's amazing. Wow, this is such an amazing way to honor her.
What she had was a little tiny, a mini painting set. So when I took her out in the wheelchair, she had this little painting set with a little tiny bit of water in a little capsule, so she could stop somewhere if we were out there and actually start painting something.
Wow. So beautiful.
And Paola taught me about appreciating. Even though, at 21, she was told she was going to die, but she appreciated every single day of her life.
Yeah.
Even though things were going so bad and she was in pain and that, she always appreciated things and wanted to help other people.
Mm-hmm.
It's like there's this story I've got about my wife. One day, when her kidneys failed, it happened really quickly, and there was nothing we could do to stop it. The damage from the medication keeping the cancer away just started to attack her kidneys. So if you'd stopped one, she would have died of cancer. So we had to keep it going. And so her legs locked up because basically, if your kidneys fail, your body fills up with fluid. And she had like 5 kilograms of fluid on each leg.
Jeez.
Massive amount of fluid on each leg. So she couldn't bend her legs or anything. She was basically like a stiff board. And it got very dangerous. She almost died because it started to go around her heart and everything, because liquid was going in, but there was no way for liquid to go out of her body.
Yeah.
So went into the hospital with her that night, and she was put in a bed and her wheelchair next to it. And I went home, and I came back in the next morning, and the staff nurse, which I knew pretty well, took me aside and said, "You know what your wife did last night?" Paula, at about 10 o'clock at night after I had left, she dragged herself into the wheelchair and went around the entire ward. There were 6 people in the ward, and introduced herself and said hello to them.
Aww.
Because she thought they were lonely.
Yeah.
And when I came there and I asked her, "Why did you do that? You should have been resting." She said, "Well, these people don't have you." And it was like, and that was Paula. She was always thinking. She used to, like, she'd knit little beanie hats for people that she knew in America, and send them off. It would take her months because she could only work for 15 minutes at a time, whatever craft she tried to do. And so she just, like, you can tell these are on silk paper. That's on silk paper, that one is.
Yeah.
The Chinese silk paper. And so she was just, that's why no matter what goes on in my life, I'm always going to appreciate and try to help people and try to inspire people. And I think a lot of us, for those of us that have faced darkness and that, we know what it's like, and we don't want other people to have to deal with it. We want to try help people and see if we can make them smile. I mean, I think that's the greatest gift you can ever do to someone. If you can make someone smile, if you can make their day better, no matter what's going on, then that matters. That really matters beyond anything else, just to make someone smile.
Absolutely. I know you do that for a lot of people.
Oh. And you do too. I know your channel inspires so many people. You have such a following of people that love you and love what you do.
Oh.
And because that's why I wanted to be on here and do all this with you. Because watching your videos and seeing all those people and discovering what they're facing in life, we need that. It's nice to be reminded about all this, and to see it happening, seeing the good, especially when all the stuff that's going on out there in the world these days, that the doom and gloom, we can still focus on the little things, on each other, and that's what we need to do. We can't change the world. It'd be wonderful if we could change what's going on out there. We're not at that pay grade.
Yeah.
But we can make a difference to the people around us. And we can make a difference to people that watch our videos or visit our channels and that. And it's so cool. I mean, I will never get sponsors or anything like that, because my brain's too random. Whatever when I wake up in the morning, I don't have any plan. I could talk about anything from mental illness, depression, even down to incontinence or women. I'll talk about anything that comes to my mind, or I'll talk about a political situation that's going on, and it's just my brain just has to get it out. But that's the therapy.
Right.
That camera in front of me is my therapy. Every morning when I do that, I'm told there's about 6,500 videos of mine on my channel now.
Wow.
Just random stuff that I do every day.
Well, if anybody wants to see those videos, I will definitely have your channel linked as well. And if you write a comment on the video, I'll pin it so people can just click on your name and see you there.
I will.
This has been super cool. Seriously.
You are awesome. I know. I mean, you've done a lot, and I know you've been going through lots of changes and sorting lots of different things. And you've been traveling around and visiting everyone, which is all so cool.
Yeah.
I wish I could. I mean, I want to visit Womanji. I really want to visit
Oh,
Womanji.
yeah.
If I'm ever well enough, I want to visit her, go over there, and then I'd love to meet you over there as well.
You heard that I met her, right?
Yeah, she told me. I was like, yay, you're going to see.
She's going to be in a video soon that I recorded.
Oh, wonderful. She's such an interesting person. And once again, she's a person that is so genuine and helps people.
I've had a lot of, fascinating and flashy stories on my channel, but the pure humanity, the realness in what you've experienced and how you've handled it and what you've found that changes your life is breathtaking. It really is something that I'm so glad I could hear.
Thank you. I mean, it's me. It's just me. And if I can make a difference to someone, if anything I've faced can make someone feel that they're not facing it alone, that someone else has dealt with something like this, it's why I talk about everything, then that matters. Because all we can do is try and help someone.
Are you okay with people sending you friend requests, or should they not?
Yes. Please send me friend requests. I love friend requests. I love talking to people and making new friends and that. Anybody? Yes? Friend me.
Tell me a story. I want to hear it. You might think it's boring, but I'm interested.